I have something just really important for you today, but it also happens to be entertaining, and I think most of you are going to enjoy this. There's a company called SalesForce. We've used this company off and on to manage our ad sales process. It's a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, and it doesn't even really matter what that is, but their CEO is a guy named Marc Benioff, and he's a smart guy. He has some really progressive ideas, at least in the context of someone who runs a huge corporation and happens to be a multi-billionaire, reportedly worth more than $6.4 billion, about two-thirds of that in Salesforce company stock. He has a narrative about capitalism, about the role of big business that is pretty different from what a lot of other big corporate CEOs have. And he's been talking for a while now about a new capitalism, a more social capitalism, capitalism without going off the rails, so to speak, a capitalism that accounts for the well-being not just of the shareholders, as is often the case, but also of stakeholders, which include all employees, customers, the environment, capitalism for social change rather than capitalism for preventing social change. And he was interviewed on CNBC by the usual suspects, including this guy named Jim Cramer, who's known in the investment world. And he turned their world visibly upside down, and they didn't know what to do with him. So we're going to look at some clips. This is a 12-minute interview in total, which you can find online. I'm going to play a few clips for you. And throughout this, you might notice there will be times where the camera is a wide shot, and you'll notice Jim Cramer just looking exasperated with Marc Benioff, who's not going to be bullied by the sort of vulture capitalist mentality into saying anything other than what Marc Benioff believes. And he happens to believe many of the right things. And you'll see Jim Cramer go in on him about, are we really going to break up big tech, which Elizabeth Warren has been suggesting? And Marc Benioff says, yeah, we should.
Well, last night, I heard capitalism under attack as I've never heard it before. And it made me think that if it's dead, there are two visions. There's your vision, which is to resurrect it and make business the greatest platform for social change. And there's another vision, which is that the government has to step in because the billionaires have screwed it up so badly. Tell us how to get that not to happen.
I think both are probably right, actually. But we need a new capitalism. We need a capitalism that's more fair, more equitable, more sustainable capitalism. Capitalism that values not just all shareholders, but also all stakeholders. And if we can put those things together, I think it can be a new capitalism and be very exciting for everybody.
I do worry, Mark, that in the vacuum of what you're talking about, I heard last night about big tech having to be broken up simply because it's got tremendous power. Not even that the power is being used unwisely. But where are you when it comes down to breaking up Facebook, breaking up Amazon, breaking up Alphabet? Aren't these great American companies that hire a lot of people?
Well, you know how I feel, Jim. Facebook is the new cigarettes. It's addictive. It's bad for you.
Change.
Jim, they're after your kids.
That's not fair.
And also,
people can
Jim,
change, Mark.
Look
people
at the political ads that are going on. There's, not a commitment to trust and truth. And now they're commingling the data of all of their acquisitions. Facebook probably should be broken up because they're using these assets in a way to further manipulate even more people. I think that there needs to be change. It hasn't happened fast enough.
Absolutely correct. He's a huge beneficiary of the system that we have, but he's saying, plain and simple, that the system still has to be changed. And Cramer pushes back because he just doesn't, he doesn't like it. He can't believe that a multi-billionaire, huge corporate CEO is saying this stuff. And Marc Benioff here, to the disbelief of the people on the panel, explaining that Salesforce has returned great value to investors. Investors in Salesforce have done really well financially, but that they're also providing a return to stakeholders and focusing on the environment and more.
Mark, you've been talking for some time now about...
And that's the new capitalism, Jim, which is that, look, we have to actually value all stakeholders.
Well,
we have to look at all shareholders. Look, shareholders are important. And we've had a great shareholder return at Salesforce. I heard you earlier mention it, 3,500% since I was first year, right there in 2004. If you bought our stock, well, that's a 3,500% return. But I had a great stakeholder return, too, during that same period. We've given over $300 million for grants, 4 million hours of volunteerism, 40,000 nonprofits and NGOs for free, running on our service. And we're a net zero company, be fully renewable by 2025. That's our stakeholder return. We issue a stakeholder report. So we have a shareholder return and a shareholder report. We have a stakeholder return, a stakeholder report. And I think that's something the SEC can do, by the way. They could put, I mentioned that in my op-ed.
What a concept, right? I mean, blowing their minds. You can see that these people, they're looking at each other, they're smirking, they're rolling their eyes. They can't believe that a company that makes money also treats the planet in a more responsible way. And it treats stakeholders as an important part of the considerations that are made when you make business decisions. Now, disclaimer time. I'm not saying Marc Benioff is perfect. I'm not saying SalesForce is the perfect company and there are no negative externalities to what SalesForce does. There well may be, but the way in which these simple socially democratic ideas are coming from a multi-billionaire CEO and triggering Jim Cramer is just delightful. Watch Cramer in this next clip. If you're watching, if you're just listening, I encourage you to find the full interview online. While David Faber takes a turn asking some questions of Marc Benioff, Jim Cramer looks perplexed as Marc Benioff explains, hey, there are actually CEOs all over the world being more thoughtful about how we run our businesses.
What are the metrics? How do you measure this, given it is growing in importance? We hear about it all the time now from real money, not just sort of a broad sense that there's interest in it, but people actually who want to put dollars behind it.
Well, my peers certainly do. When I talk to the largest CEOs in the world, yesterday I was in Munich, Germany, with one of the largest company in Germany, with their CEO. They have a major program into place, just as we do, just as many others do. I was in London on Monday. I see the same thing throughout Europe. It's probably happening faster there. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are the 17 core initiatives that are laid out by the UN of how we're trying to improve the state of the world. And companies should have to report how they're doing against those goals. That just makes complete sense to me. If we're not all into improving the state of the world, then what are we all into?
Did you believe the Business Roundtable when they changed their statement, or do you think, as some do, that it was really more just kind of talk to get on the right side of the politics of it?
The Business Roundtable has said now exactly the same thing. The purpose of the corporation is to value stakeholders as important as shareholders. That the traditional Milton Friedman concept that it's only about the shareholder, that the CEO's only job is to maximize shareholder return is dead.
Wow. Oversight, regulation, working together. Milton Friedman's teachings are obsolete. It's not only about maximizing shareholder value. Socialism? No, this is not socialism. This is social democracy. It's social capitalism. Marc Benioff doesn't say big corporations shouldn't exist. Marc Benioff doesn't say billionaires like him shouldn't exist. He is saying that we can do capitalism in a different way, still make money, but consider all stakeholders, consider the environment. This is CNBC, mind you. This is a billionaire tech CEO, and you'll see the wide shot again show Jim Cramer, who is just laughing to himself. He can't believe this is happening on CNBC's air.
We need to value all stakeholders and all shareholders. Now, when I say stakeholders, what do I mean? I mean our employees, our customers, our partners, but I also mean, like, I'm in from San Francisco. We have a horrible homeless problem there. The homeless are a stakeholder for me. That's why I was fighting for Proposition C, a tax on ourselves, because we have to deal with the homeless situation in San Francisco. If, as the largest employer in San Francisco, I'm not focused on that, if they aren't one of my key stakeholders, then what is?
That was the question I had, because at TechCrunch you said if your orientation is just about making money, you're not going to hang out for very long as a CEO or a founder of a company. My question was, if you don't, then what? Your board fires you? Your sales drop? You can't hire anybody? What is the consequence of running afoul of that?
Well, you can see that in my industry, which is for CEOs who do not take this approach. They are really at risk, and they can be extremely vulnerable, especially during economic times that become turbulent.
Stunning, right? Who could have imagined you could be a corporate CEO or a big corporation and care about other people? Then Benioff brings up climate change, which is just like, it's lost on these folks, and you'll see them all smirk at each other.
What am I doing wrong? I need to be thinking about the public schools, the homeless. Oh, and I also need to be thinking about not just profit, but planet. I need to be thinking about the planet. What are my emissions? You know, that is part of the new world we're in. That gets back to David's question on what about the Sustainable Development Goals in the UN? That is the connectivity. That's the map. We can lay it out, then we can measure. If we can measure it, we can have impact. That's our one. We all know that. We understand how to do that.
Mark, before Jim, I know, has to finish, but there's some shareholders right now who are listening to you who probably like, what are you talking about? You seem to be abandoning what I would want, which is just you focus on improving the profitability of this company. You worry that you freak some of these people out? And what do they say to you when they hear that if they're not on board with your view?
This is how to improve the profitability of a company. This is how to make a great company. This is how to have a company that customers want to do business with, that attracts employees, that develops partnerships, that integrates local communities, that saves the planet. This is about having a great company. And look at our company. Look at our financial returns since we went public right here in 2004. Look at how we rank against everyone else over the last same 15-year period. I'm sure that you'll see we're in the very top echelon. And I'll tell you how we did it. We valued stakeholders as much as shareholders.
Consider that. You improve the company by caring about the world in which the company exists, by caring about the people who could be employees or potential employees, customers of the company, just people who exist on this planet. Shocking, right? And half of what makes this great is the content of what Marc Benioff is saying. The other half is just how triggered Jim Cramer is and his incredulous reactions to what is being said. Really great stuff. And you know, I mean, listen, as I say, don't idolize politicians. Don't idolize big corporate CEOs. He's still the CEO of a huge corporation that I'm sure does things that we would all disagree with. But this was just a delightful wake-up call and taking it right to the horse's mouth. Check out the full interview online. It's only about 12 or 13 minutes. Let me know what you think about it.